Welcome everybody to Afterthoughts. This is a podcast where we rewatch movies, we compare our first and second impressions, and discuss a related topic. My name is Joshua Kazemi, and I'm here with my co-host Coleman Taylor.
Well, that's me.
And a very special guest, Ryan Walker.
Very excited to join you guys today.
And this is the first time we've had a guest.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's very exciting. And to honor that, we're going to try to do the podcast a little differently. Normally, Coleman and I rewatch the movies and then compare our first and second impressions. Today, we're just going to talk about our first impressions. We're going to pause the podcast, watch the movie as a group, and then resume and discuss our second impressions. So what's going to be interesting about this right out of the gate is Coleman's going to try to do his normal plot summary without having rewatched the movie yet.
Yep.
Which is very exciting.
Yes, so we'll see how well you do.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So there's animal experimentation going on in this movie that makes apes vastly smarter than they are. And one of them, Caesar... goodness.
Good so far.
That's correct.
I think he escapes. I can't remember if he's already working with Will Rodman, James Franco's character in the beginning,
or if his name.
or if he escapes and ends up with him. I cannot for the life of me remember.
I think they're working together.
I think they are working together because he comes home and he is teaching him things and they're working together, and he ends up having to be caged for some reason with other monkeys, but they all end up escaping and releasing gas upon the world. Oh my goodness.
This sounds like a really interesting movie, Coleman. It's never been made. It's not the James Franco movie we're discussing, but it does sound good. I would watch that for what it's worth.
So where did you go wrong?
In every way, in totality. Do you want to hear my...
I do want to hear
for it.
Okay. So James Franco actually he works for this drug company. They're doing animal experimentation, and this. So I'm going to use monkey and chimp interchangeably. I know that's scientifically completely inaccurate, but sorry. He gets the monkey as a young baby and brings it home as a baby. He's trying to develop a cure for Alzheimer's because his dad, John Lithgow, is experiencing Alzheimer's, and so he's trying to get a cure.
That's right.
They won't continue the experimentation and move into the stage of testing on humans, so he's like, I'm just going to test on my dad.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. So, because he's seen the monkey improve at home, Caesar. So, there's this incident with a neighbor where Caesar gets in trouble, and he has to be basically put in like a monkey pound. Mm-hmm. And so, they take him up there. It's this really sad scene, and he gets locked in this cage with all the other chimps. And he starts teaching them how to be a brilliant monkey as well.
That's right.
And then they break out. There's this, total monkey revolt, and they take over the world. And they flood through the city of San Francisco and end up in the woods across the Golden Gate Bridge, developing the beginning of what we understand as the Planet of the Apes, their brand new civilization.
Amazing. See, so I haven't seen the movie in years.
Yeah, see, and I just remember all the humans end up dying, and I couldn't remember how that happens.
So it turns out this Alzheimer's drug, while it makes monkeys brilliant, it also kills humans eventually. It helps you with Alzheimer's for a very short period of time, and then is ultimately lethal. And so you see at the end during the credits, there's this map of some guy who interacted with the drug, getting on an airplane, and then he spreads that disease all over the world, and it's just this mass, contagion situation.
I could not remember how it was spread.
Awesome.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
A much better plot synopsis than mine, I would say.
So I saw this movie for the first time, not in theaters, but it must have been shortly after it came out to DVD or whatever. And I skipped it in theaters because I wasn't super interested. I mean, I guess just because it was another reboot and it wasn't something original, and I think at this point I hadn't seen the original movie either. Mm-hmm. I'd only seen Tim Burton's, which is not very good. We'll talk about that later.
I have a sordid history with this franchise that we'll discuss later. But yes, that's fair.
So I wasn't super interested in this movie, so I had really low expectations. But then I watched it, and I thought it was great. Mm-hmm. It's really good. It's much better than I thought it could be or would be.
No.
So that's my basic first impression. And I don't think I've seen the movie since the first time I saw it. But I liked it. I thought it was really cool.
I've only seen it in theaters when it first came out, and that's obviously why I couldn't remember all of the plot. But I do remember really enjoying it, and at the time, it was the only Planet of the Apes movie I'd seen. I didn't see any of the originals, didn't see Tim Burton's, but I still remember enjoying it overall. And I think I went because I had never seen a Planet of the Apes movie, so I was wondering. I had heard good things about the old ones and how it had started, and this seemed a different way to go about it. I know it wasn't just some monkey being tested on. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was interesting to see where they were going to go. And I remember liking it and enjoying James Franco in it because I feel like it's not his usual role, what he usually plays.
Not Harry Osborn.
Yeah. And so I remember liking it a lot, even if I didn't remember a lot overall.
So I saw this movie in theaters against my better judgment because Tim Burton burned me really bad. But this franchise somehow has this amazing magnetism for me. So I went and saw the movie in theaters. I have vague memories. I remember the plot, but I basically remember this being as much fun as I've had watching a movie, maybe ever. It's just a blast. The whole movie is a blast in my memory. It's really fun. I remember in the theater, there's a moment where, I don't know if you remember this, where Caesar speaks. Right?
Yeah.
And it's like totally out of, like, you don't know that's coming, and he does it. And I remember we're in this theater, it wasn't that crowded, and he says it, and I was like, oh my God, I said it out loud. I was so excited. I left the movie, and I was like, I couldn't sleep. It was like midnight when I got out, and I couldn't go to sleep because I was just so excited about how fun this movie was.
Awesome.
And then I saw it one more time a year later on DVD. I haven't seen it since then.
Okay. That isn't one thing. I remember like just being blown away by the CGI and how real they looked and how good Andy Serkis's performance was. It was like amazing. Like, I don't think there was anything quite as good as that at that point in time.
I literally believed Andy Serkis should win Best Actor when I walked out of the theater.
Yeah.
It's really great.
No, I loved Andy Serkis by himself was great, and then even the dynamic between Andy Serkis and James Franco was really good too, because he's a CGI monkey and real person. I think they played it off really well for what it was. I remember enjoying that going into it.
Loved that. Loved the action sequences, like the scene where all the monkeys are storming the building of the pharmaceutical company is like just bonkers. Like there's humor in it, but it's like, it's not like, oh haha, that was a gag. It's just like you're overwhelmed with, oh my gosh, the monkeys are killing everybody. And I'm cheering for the monkeys. Yeah. Like, I'm hoping they manage to destroy every human being somehow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Here's what's something I enjoy about this movie that maybe falls in the category of like bad movies, but I think this movie manages to navigate through this. But you have at least 2, maybe 3 like unconscionably evil characters that have no motivation other than like perpetrating more evil for the rest of the film. And so one of them is like this executive at the pharmaceutical company that's amazing, and I'm excited to see this again and watch for him. And then the other one is like the caretaker, who is Draco Malfoy.
Malfoy.
The caretaker of the monkeys at the thing, who's just again unconscionably evil. There's no reason. They're not even like, they don't have a grudge that we know about. They just want to do more bad things while the clock is ticking.
I remember also enjoying this one because all the other ones I think of are kind of more grand and epic because we're already in the midst of the planet of the apes. The planet's already run by apes, but this is more taking it back and how did it start, and it's just this kind of smaller, kind of even more dramatic film between monkeys and human and what gaining intelligence does and things like that. And I remember enjoying that aspect rather than we're just on a planet that is now apes and it turns out it's Earth. And I thought that was really cool.
I really liked the relationship between James Franco's character and Caesar. To me, that like was the driving force behind the movie and what I really enjoyed about it. And I think that's what I like about this movie over the sequel, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Because I feel like it's missing that element of it, or from what I remember. Like from what I remember from this movie, it's a really big part of the movie that I enjoyed, and why I think I like that better than Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which I saw in theaters. Yeah.
Which I'm sure we'll get into.
We will definitely get into that if I have any say. Again, very complicated feelings with this franchise.
Yeah.
Should I save the talk about the titles to topic time? Because it's Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
They're backwards. The 2 movies are backwards.
Yes.
Completely backwards titles. Yeah. We'll talk about that.
Okay. We'll get into all aspects of everything in this franchise.
Just driven me crazy for a long time.
That's fair. All right. You want to watch this movie?
Let's watch the movie.
So, all right. We're going to pause the podcast and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back.
We are back.
Credits just rolled. It's amazing. So, second impressions.
It's fresh.
It's very fresh.
Yes. Wow. That was awesome.
That was awesome.
It was awesome, right?
Yeah, that was great.
I feel like, if anyone, I think I overbilled this movie at the beginning. I think it completely lived up.
Yeah.
I love this movie. It's just so fun. There's a lot of like really good relationships. Like we talked about the relationship between the monkey and James Franco, but also the relationship between the monkey and John Lithgow is like really powerful. And like, it's like this, at first, he brings home in a box and the nurse is like, oh, it might be good for him. Mm-hmm. And like, there's this slow role reversal where Caesar is like the caretaker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just such a tender, like they really care about each other. And you can, what's neat about the movie, I think this goes through the whole movie, but like, and it's just a lucky coincidence, I guess, that Caesar is like this really kind-hearted ape. I think that's like a unique personality feature that, if not for that, it probably would have been a lot more violent, horrible outcome than it was. Mm-hmm. But I love that relationship with Lithgow and him.
Yeah. It's like the last chunk of the movie is it's this chaos. They wreak havoc throughout the city, but the movie does everything it can to earn that first. It does all of its due diligence, and then we get to that moment, and it feels well deserved. It's not just random chaos. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's so earned. Really great.
As we're watching the movie, I had forgotten how like quote unquote slow it was for the first 2/3.
Yeah.
Followed by this 25-minute action scene that was fantastic, but because the rest of the movie did what you're talking about, it was all about relationships.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It made that action scene really fun and meaningful. Mm-hmm. I really liked it.
And that's what I really remember being the difference between this one and the second one, that this one was more of, like I said, a drama, more of the relationship building and where they come from rather than just straight action the whole time.
Yeah.
And one thing I remembered that I really liked about this one, even watching now, was just that, so we know going into this that this is the Planet of the Apes. We know the outcome.
Yeah.
But this was before Dawn of Planet of the Apes had come out. So we don't know exactly what that looks like. So I remember the first half of the movie, everything's going great and it's not going to stay that way.
Sure.
And I remember that like drew me in. The fact that I know that things are going to go bad and how are they going to go bad, and just that I want it to stay good. I want it to, like, these relationships that they're building to stay the same way, and I know they're not going to. And I remember that really drew me in the first time.
Yeah, they really make you care for it.
Yes, for these relationships, and that, man, it's going to come crashing down, and I like don't want it to.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
This is kind of just repetitive, but there's so many just beats they hit with the relationship disintegration, and like where they take Caesar to the redwoods and he sees the dog.
Yeah.
And like there's just so many moments like that are just like the dominoes falling, and it's really believable when he comes back to get Caesar and Caesar's like, nah, I'm staying in the cage, dog. Mm-hmm. It's just like, it's really believable because they built up to that.
Yeah.
Another thing that's cool is like, again, we know that at the end of this movie or at some point in the future, apes are going to rule the planet and humans are going to be total goners.
Yeah.
And that seems completely impossible even at the middle of the movie. It's like, even if apes like get real smart, like we can nuke them or whatever.
Yeah.
But the way that they knock over these like story dominoes to get to that point at the end where it's like, oh yeah, I could kind of see this. Maybe monkeys have the upper hand here. Yeah. It's so good. It's so great.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they're intelligent apes, but what I like is that they stay intelligent.
Yeah.
Like even when they're causing all this craziness to happen, they're doing it very intelligently, using manhole covers and throwing them at police cars or using bars as spears. Like they're consistently intelligent. Mm-hmm. And it's awesome. They never forget how smart they made these apes.
Yeah. And the cool little plot point that helps them is they plant this nugget early where they say Caesar, he's real smart and he's getting smarter.
Yeah.
So like it kind of gives the writers a lot of room to like at the beginning they're like figuring out how to break out of this little cage, and at the end they're like constructing weapons and they're getting smarter.
Yeah.
Which is it's a clever setup.
I know.
Yeah. Jeez.
I want to knock the two negatives I thought of in this because I think this movie's fantastic.
Yes.
So I want to get these out of the way.
Sure.
Okay.
So the one is James Franco kind of in the beginning, how rushed he seems. And I get his father's dying and he wants to get this out there. But at the same time, you want to take careful precautions so this drug also doesn't rapidly kill your father either. And so as soon as the first ape like has one success on like this one test, he's like, let's get it out there. Let's do it. And I'm like, and then halfway through the movie, he's complete opposite. And I know we've seen some character development within that time frame, especially with his father already having passed by that second time, but it would just, all of that seemed a little rushed for me.
I get what you're saying. I'm fine with it because it's still, to me, it's all centered around his dad. What bothers me is that is like just an unbelievably incompetently run lab.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
how do they not know that their main test subject is pregnant?
Yeah.
And then has a baby, and then they don't like look at the cell of the main chimp before they just execute like 7 other chimps or whatever. So that seemed like a little, a little rash.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And then just the way they decide whether to go about testing. I mean, everything about it just seemed like there's no way these are like paid professionals running this lab. And when they try to get Caesar out of the cage in the very beginning, it was like people who had never seen a chimpanzee in their life holding out this little stick. And it was like they were just thoroughly ill prepared for the whole endeavor. So that was a little bothersome, but...
And that they didn't investigate what happened at all. Oh, we've had this test subject do great, and now she's aggressive. Oh, must be just the drugs, that's it. So
execute them as quickly as possible. Like,
It's just like...
couldn't we wait till tomorrow? Like, how much is it going to really cost to keep this up and running for one day to figure that out?
I feel like if there were any higher authority, they would be like, investigate what happened here so we can find out, rather than, shut it down. We make decisions like that.
Yeah, we have a multi-billion-dollar drug on the line. We're probably going to look in the cell and see if there's a clue.
Yeah.
Do you have another one?
I do have another one, and I'm trying to remember it because we just got it. I'm sure it'll come back to me.
This is on the negative kind of scale. What did y'all think of the love relationship?
I forgot about it. If that
I had totally forgotten about it as well.
Forgot.
Me too.
And in the midst of the movie, it seemed like a distraction. I guess she moved the plot along in a couple like minor points, but it seemed like mostly a distraction.
Yeah, it's on the back burner for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, it didn't feel like it got in the way either. It was just kind of there. Mm-hmm. Could have been stronger, I guess. But then I don't know. It doesn't really need that either. So it's just kind of there.
I've completely forgot my point, so I will come back.
What did you think of the CGI?
Still good, but also this came out I think the same year as Thor.
It did.
Close, yeah. If not the same year.
So I'm kind of thinking. So it's still good and good for its time, but it is a little dated.
Okay.
Just a tad bit. There's the monkeys, and you can tell that they're not real monkeys. But I still think it was great overall.
Yeah,
and
any
very well done.
Still moment, like close up on Caesar, is amazing. It's so good. But there is a little bit with like the movement that maybe has aged. I don't think it was ever bad when it came out in 2011. But maybe we've just advanced even so much more since then that it is starting to feel a little dated, but still not bad.
Definitely not.
Really good.
And I always wonder what it's like working with Andy Serkis, because in this movie we're seeing James Franco interact with an ape, but in real life it's James Franco interacting with Andy Serkis pretending to be an ape.
That's true. It makes it that much more impressive that all the like John Lithgow and all those actors are like doing it so well.
Right.
With this, what must look like a ridiculous human being crouched up on a stool or whatever he's doing.
He has like a collar on. With
I mean, just absurd. Good point. I never thought about that.
So I remembered my second one.
All right.
It's not really a negative. It's just something I kind of forgot. I remembered the part I really like about this movie is the relationship, and I forgot how short of a time it was, and I wanted more of it. I understand they're in a time constraint, and they hit all the beats perfectly, but I still would have I just would have enjoyed more of the relationship and seeing that grow. I forgot it was just such a short, rushed period, and then he's off to the cages and spends a lot of time in the cages.
They montage it real heavy, so we get 8 years in like 7 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I feel like they bring us in enough. You know what I mean? Like
they definitely do.
You would like to see more of it, but they accomplish what they need to get you to feel like this is a meaningful thing.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's just kind of a negative, because I still think they hit all the beats just right. I think it would have been even better if there was more.
Agreed.
Sure. Yeah.
What did you all think of it from a visual, like not just the CG, but just as a visual film? Like how did it hit you?
I don't know. I mean, it's good. I don't know. I'm wondering if I kind of want to watch the second one now. It's a different director from to the second one, and I do remember that one feeling very cinematic, and this sort of it feels sort of middle of the road for me. Like I wish it could have been a little more daring visually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just about normal for me. There were some really cool shots.
Yeah, there were a couple moments that like it just were beautiful. Like when they're all flooding out of the top of that domed cage thing, and they're just it's just like and it's like the cityscape behind it. Really, really cool shot.
I think a lot of the shots at the end with the apes running around are
yeah, all of that stuff looks
when he
really
comes
great.
up on that horse. I don't know if we're going to devote a whole section to that. That was, I mean, they're already clearly winning the fight, right? Yeah. So it's already like you're very excited for the apes. And then this, like, seemingly riderless horse comes galloping up beside the school bus.
That is awesome.
And you know something exciting is about to happen. You don't know what.
Yeah.
And Caesar's head just comes up.
On the horse.
He is on the horse. He knows exactly what he's doing. He could win the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah.
And he's pretty amazing.
Yeah. One thing I find so interesting about this movie is that how complex it really is. I think the outcome that came about, even though we don't exactly like it, we hate that Caesar has to leave his home, is what would eventually have happened anyways. Caesar didn't necessarily belong crouched up in that little attic. He is much smarter than most humans, I would say, at this point. And he wanted to be free and go out there. And so I just find that interesting that while I'm torn, I want him to go back and live at home with, what's James Franco's
Will.
character name? Will.
Something.
There we go.
Yeah.
To be with Will, but at the same time knowing he probably shouldn't be and that this probably is the best despite the chaos that took place.
I don't know if the movie is intending to be this deep as I'm about to get, but what's really cool is you have this Caesar, this exceptional character that's like too exceptional for the world, not only the world that he lives in, but any world that exists, right? Because even if, like when he was originally at the shelter with the regular monkeys, it was like, oh, this is not right either.
Yeah.
And he like literally like creates this universe that's good enough for him to live in. You know what I mean? Like by his own sheer force of will and intelligence and everything, he like raises this planet of the apes out of nothing so that he can be a part of something. It's pretty cool.
And I honestly think the movie is trying to get
Yeah,
there.
it might be.
So I think
Even
so,
when
yeah.
the girl, his girlfriend, she does say something essentially to that effect. She's saying you're doing things you can't control, and I think she gets that Caesar doesn't belong here or really anywhere, and you can't contain him like this because he's much smarter and is going to do something great.
Yeah.
So I think it really is trying to build that Caesar is kind of evolving and becomes smarter and needs to create something for himself with people, apes more like him.
I felt the movie does such a good job at it made me feel really conflicted. Like when James Franco and Caesar have that final moment in the woods, and Caesar says Caesar is home. It's emotional because I do want him to be back with James, but it doesn't make sense.
He can't.
He
Right.
can't
Exactly.
But the fact that they made me want that still at the end after all that stuff is incredible. I think.
Yeah.
Josh,
really
are you crying?
This is audio, so no one can see that. Oh man! And that moment you mentioned in our first impression when he talks,
Yes.
Yeah.
I did forget how incredible this is.
So amazing.
So good.
It's so cool.
And the non-Draco, like, more idiot brother, his reaction is just unbelievable. And, like, hours later, he's still, like, just shell-shocked. And, like, the monkeys just got out of their cages and killed his brother. And he's still, the thing he's talking about is, he spoke.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
It is amazing.
I did remember him talking more, and I guess that's just because I have Dawn.
In the second one, he talks, yeah.
the whole time. And I forgot he only has like 2 lines in this one,
Yeah.
which is all the more impressive. I'm really invested in this ape that has 2 lines in the movie.
Yeah?
I love Andy Serkis's performances.
Yeah,
I think
great.
he's great.
Best actor, 2011.
2011.
Oh man, kind of unrelated, but I just was wondering, do you think scientists really like record themselves talking about their findings as much as they do in film? It's like constantly.
Yeah, it's always a tape recorder
Yeah.
and
I really wanna know if they do
subject
that for
this.
real.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a really good
Clearly
question.
just
I
a
know.
film device.
Here's a question. Maybe this is getting into the topic, but if money was no object, should there be a second movie?
I don't.
If it wasn't about, obviously the studio can make more money, so they're going to.
Yeah.
But if that, forget about that. If it was really about like,
I'm trying to ignore the fact that I didn't really like the second one very much.
I didn't either.
so
gonna be a
I feel like
fun
you
topic
could
time, guys.
you could end it here, and it be just this cool, interesting piece to tie in with the rest of the franchise.
If the question is, could you? Yes, I think you absolutely could end it.
I think there is yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I think it's possible to end this franchise right here, and that's done.
Yeah.
We know where it's going. This was great.
Right, because the sequel is The Planet of the Apes.
Right, exactly.
That's been made, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And the other thing is like a bridge film, except there's probably going to be 7 more, right? I mean, there's one coming out next week, right? So maybe that leads us into the topic time, or if we have anything else to talk about this movie, we can.
It was just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
All the great performances.
Loved it. Loved it. Would recommend to anybody who hasn't seen it.
Yeah.
Hands down.
For sure.
Without question.
Without question. Absolutely. especially thinking how this is my first Planet of the Apes movie. Fantastic.
Right.
Loved it.
It's a great way to start. Yeah.
Makes me curious about the other ones.
I think everyone should see. I would recommend the first one, the original movie, to
original
everyone,
one.
partly because it's referenced all the time, right? There's always like gags about it on like The Simpsons or things like that. There's so many little elements of that show or that movie that get brought up again. But also, like, it's a solid movie. It's a thoughtful movie that kind of forces you to think about some issues that are pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It's well done. It's a fun like suspense. You know, kind of if you know the Statue of Liberty scene and some of the major things, you know that's ruined for you, but it gets there in a very interesting way.
Yeah. Well, we're on the verge.
Should we just dive
I think
in?
we're already halfway there, boys.
Topic time. Today we're going to talk about the entire Planet of the Apes franchise and the movies that we've seen, some that we haven't. So we're just going to dive right in. So I've seen the original, but when I was a kid, I really don't remember. I should rewatch it. I've seen Tim Burton's. I've seen this one, obviously, and Dawn. That's it.
I have only seen Rise of the Planet of the Apes and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
I've seen Rise of the Planet of the Apes in this order. I saw Rise. Oh no, sorry. I blocked it out. I saw Tim Burton's movie.
Yes.
Which is it called The Planet of the Apes?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So,
And then I saw Rise, loved it so much that I was like, I should go back and watch Charlton Heston's, and I did before seeing Dawn.
Okay.
So I've seen the original, the Tim Burton, and then the two recent ones.
There you go.
nice.
Okay.
But there's been like a million of these movies.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, the original movie, Charlton Heston, is a classic. And then there were like a geeky number of other movies. It became like a Star Trek thing in itself in this kind of fan universe.
Yeah.
With alternate universes, I think, and alternate timelines and all kinds of like nuanced investigations into the Planet of the Apes. And then Tim Burton did this remake in 2001, I think, that was intended to be a multi thing, you know, like they wanted to do more. Tim Burton wanted to do more, but there was some disagreement. And then they made these next two recently.
Yes. Okay.
So I've heard great things about the concepts of time and at least some of the originals. I know there's probably like 5, so I don't know if it continues. But I remember hearing, so obviously the first one is these people go to a new planet that's run by apes, and it turns out it's future Earth. But then I hear in a later one, they end up taking one of those apes back in time to present day, and that's how the Planet of the Apes begins. And
It's
so
like
if
self-fulfilling.
So if they had never gone to the future and brought them back to the past, Planet of the Apes would have never happened. And so it's like this
Interesting.
time loop that I think is really interesting.
That is
Sounds
fascinating, yeah.
Yeah.
Tim Burton's movie, I have a number of problems with it. The biggest problem with it is that he, pardon my French, molests the nature of time in this movie. It has like maybe the biggest plot hole of any movie ever.
Okay.
And I'm not going to do it justice, but I can't recommend that anyone sees this movie. Okay, so in the original Planet of the Apes, Charlton Heston is this space traveler who ends up on this planet that he doesn't know anything about it, and it's inhabited by apes. And then at the end, the big reveal is it's Earth, right? And it's just Earth way later. Yeah. And humans ruined civilization, and the apes rose and took power.
Yeah.
So it's a really cool thing. Like you just said, playing with time, and he's actually just in future Earth. He thought he was on some other planet.
Yeah.
In Tim Burton's movie, same setup. Spaceman from Earth lands on this planet, doesn't know what it is, and turns out it's this planet ruled by apes. That is not Earth. I believe we are like confirmed that he is not on Earth. I'm near certain of that. He then goes back through this wormhole that got him there to regular Earth to discover this Abraham Lincoln monument that is the monkey that burned him in the other world. And there's more details that are conflicting with what I've just shared. I saw the movie, right? There's things that bother me about the movie, but that most of all.
Yes.
It bothered me so much, and I was so mad at Tim Burton that I was like, I need more information. So I waited till it came out on DVD. I went to Blockbuster Video, because that's what you did back then. I rented the DVD for a movie I did not want to see. Turned on the director commentary, fast forwarded to the last 5 minutes where this all unravels. And this is why I will not forgive Tim Burton. The director commentary is him saying, I'm going to like quote, like I'm Tim Burton now. He's like, so a lot of people, and he rambles just like I'm doing. A lot of people, like they've asked me about this ending, and I can see how it doesn't make sense on its face. I'd like to explain it, but I don't want to ruin a potential sequel. Not that I've already committed to a sequel, or not that Fox has even committed to me. I'm not saying I've said no to Fox or they've said no to me. I guess in theory I would be interested in a sequel, though I'm not committing to one. And again, Fox has never asked me. He does that for literally the last 7 minutes of the movie, talking in circles, saying nothing else but that. And I've like discussed it with people. There's no possible explanation for the ending of this film. But also in the film, there's like fun parts about it, and it's kind of neat. There is this like romantic moment between Mark Wahlberg and one of the lady monkeys.
Yeah.
That there's 2 moments in my lifetime where I've been the one person in the theater shouting something out. So I'm not that person, but this was the other moment. We're watching this scene, and Mark Wahlberg, there's like this lady monkey that they've been friends, like she's helpful, right? Yeah. And he's leaving, he's getting in the spaceship to leave, and he has to leave her behind because she's a monkey that belongs on Monkey World. Yeah. And they look at each other, and it's like they hug like they're longtime friends, and they look at each other in the eyes, and they like full on like tongue kiss, open mouth kiss.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, what? In the movie theater. And everybody else is just watching it like it's like The Notebook or something. Like, it was appalling. And I did not, maybe other people were sold on that moment. I thought it was far too much.
Oh my goodness.
Incredible.
So pretty much I need to go home and watch this movie. Right?
It's worth watching based on all that. I mean, there's fascinating things about it. I can't believe it was made.
Yeah.
John Travolta as an ape, right?
I think Paul Giamatti is in it. And he's like barely costumed. I mean, like, it's like he's got a little bit of makeup on. It's like, there's an ape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like no CG in it, right? They're all in costume.
It's costume, yeah.
Costume
it is
apes.
costume.
Whew.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever watch that movie.
There's some fun stuff.
I've
That movie actually does kind of maybe the most interesting job of like, you've got this secret history.
Sure.
Right? And that's in the original too. But in the Tim Burton one, there's this secret history that some of the apes know about, but very few. And so like there's this gun that they keep in a suitcase that's like this is the most dangerous thing. I think this is this one, not the Charlton Heston one.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. So they do that really, really well. And it makes you want to know more about how this happened. Unfortunately, it is literally impossible because of the way they end the movie.
The twist sort of element of I guess Tim Burton's and of the original, do you miss that in these modern ones? The fact that there are big reveals and twists?
One, I've never seen the old one, so
true.
I can't
That's
really
true.
miss it.
I think the disease thing is kind of a twist, right?
Okay.
Because like I said, as you're watching the movie, it's like, oh, wow. And if you're knowing where we're ending, you're like, oh, now I understand the ape part of the equation, how they get really smart.
Yeah.
But it's still inconceivable they could wipe out humanity. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, oh, the same exact thing that made them smart is what wiped out humanity. And coincidentally, it's kind of interesting. I don't know. It's like, it's not a twist in the same sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is interesting.
It's unexpected.
Enjoy that it's more straightforward. That it's not playing off of this, this is Earth just years later. That this is exactly how it happened. This disease came, wiped out humans, but made apes smarter. Mm-hmm. I kind of enjoy that they're starting something new while using the same material.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Dawn.
Okay.
Because we've all seen that one.
We've all seen it.
Dawn comes first.
It sounds to me like Coleman likes that movie the most out of the three of us. That's what I'm guessing just from the comments that have been
Yes, I would like it the most.
made. Tell us about it.
I just think it's so interesting that it kind of gets in. So this one, I think it's a continuation of the story. I think it's also made great that it has this one to back it. So in this one, apes are kind of just this innocent thing. They're being abused. They need to escape and get away. The humans are clearly what's bad. But by the time you get to the second one, it's like, are the humans the only ones that are bad? Mm-hmm. And you start to play with this morality issue. And I just find that so interesting that you started with this. And just through the character of Caesar, really, that what he realizes, oh, it's not just humans. It's this, there's something there that's really in anything living and that can think about it. We can realize, oh, you can't just be good. It's not just in humans. It's just flawed nature. And I find that interesting.
There's a scene in Rise and Dawn where Caesar is talking about that, where Caesar explains. He's like, I thought apes were good and humans were bad, and I didn't see it. And that to me is like phenomenal. Maybe better than any part of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie, it was so hard for me because they advertised it like the last 25 minutes of this movie. And you see like apes on machine guns riding horseback and there was very little of that, and there was a lot of talking, and it was apes talking to apes, which again, it goes back to the same problem I had with Mark Wahlberg, is like, I can take a little of this, but I don't want to see like Bridges of Madison County starring all apes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It just is a struggle to take the drama real seriously when it's exclusively apes.
Yeah, it's missing that human relationship that is in Rise. I wanted that again. Or not again, but to another level.
Something to draw you in and compel you to care about something, and it's like, it's interesting how the monkey culture is exactly like the human culture eventually, but it's not compelling to me. It's just like, oh, those guys.
I think you have a soft spot for Gary Oldman.
I do have
I think that's what it is.
That's not fair, though, because I actually don't like him much in that.
Remind me his character in the new
He's
one?
like the leader of the humans, right?
Yeah, he's the leader of the
Like
humans.
resistance.
I think he does great in his part and like his motives for what he cares about, but it's just so small and seems like kind of just like a burden to the rest of the movie rather than actually being involved. He's kind of just already committed to what he believes and just carries that out. And so I think his performance is great. But yeah, he's like the leader of the human colony and decides to blow it up in the end. Sets off the bomb. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The scene in that movie where they storm the base is really cool.
Yeah.
On the horses.
There are
When they
exactly
finally get
that happened. It was
really
like,
cool.
man, I thought I was gonna have like wire to wire horseback Rambo monkey, and you don't get that.
And like the end fight sequence with Koba and Caesar and the tower or whatever is really cool.
Yeah.
And there's a moment that like is like haunting in Dawn where Koba pretends to be like a harmless ape and then machine guns a couple guys. It's terrifying.
Ruthless. Yeah.
Golly.
But I guess it's just because the apes essentially are like humans now. They're no longer just apes. They think like humans and are in some ways smarter than humans. So that draws me in and of itself, even though they're not exactly humans. Just the fact that the humans are kind of the bad guys in this one, quote unquote, but then at the end of the day, who is the bad guy? And they're just like humans. And just because they're not exactly humans doesn't mean they don't behave like them and have the same issues. That's what drew me in. And even though it's only verbalized at that point later in the movie, I still thought that was interesting.
Yeah. To me, it seems more like Dawn is more of the drama than this is. I mean,
that's how I feel.
There is a lot of drama in Rise, but to me, it was more about like the political drama in Dawn. And I guess I just wanted a little bit more of a balanced sequel.
Yeah. And I also think he needed to, because you want that human relationship with him, but I think we kind of leave that behind in this one.
Sure.
And that's kind of the point. And even though we still want it, just like we even said at the end of this one, we still want that. He just kind of can't have that. It's just...
There's even that moment where he finds like that videotape at the old house.
Yeah.
James Franco, like, oh yeah,
I know.
that's what I want.
And I think that's the most that we can get at, like, if you're going to go into the sequel.
Yeah.
That's about as far
How
as
does How does Dawn end? Like, what's the status at the end with the apes and humans?
I can't remember exactly. I think they let a lot of the humans go.
Okay.
And they're just living set. They like take over that colony.
And that small group of humans, that's all that's left?
I think
that was a microcosm. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that struggle was going on in other places was the sense I got.
Yeah. Because I think what in this new one is going to be completely different colony of,
I mean, it's got to be war, right?
Militarized humans. So.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you guys like that it seems as though there's a different cast of humans in each one of these?
I think that's one of the hard things about it.
Sure.
You have to start over, right? And now we're starting over again.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the challenges.
No. But are y'all going to see it?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. Like, I'll see it eventually. I'm not opposed to seeing it, but I'm not sure I'm like $10 seeing it.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not as thrilled about this one, honestly. Even though Dawn I thought was great, I'm still like the third one.
Just come on. Yeah.
Like, it kind of, I don't foresee it being that much different than Dawn. I don't know where else they can really go
just like a
other than
continuation.
just completely obliterating
Annihilation, yeah.
humans. That's about all I see left.
Yeah.
Because they rose up, they defeated that colony and said, we're pretty much ruling now and you can just go leave, and then what more is there other than killing anything that opposes you?
Mm-hmm.
So we all just hate Dawn. Just hate it.
I wouldn't say hate. I just was so disappointed. I had set a standard based on this one. And not just based on this one, but based on like the previews for Dawn were really good. And then I saw it and it was like, it was honestly, if you redid that movie and like changed out all the apes for other people, like let's say just as two warring clans of humans somehow, it was like an Academy Awards grab was what it felt like. It was like just these long, slow, talky scenes that was like, oh, but it's two monkeys, so it's, you know what I mean? Like how good can they do? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And this came out in 2014 when I was working at the movies, so I saw it with a lot of different groups of people, and I think I saw it like 3 times that first week. Yeah. And so all those really slow moments were like, oh yeah,
Josh,
by the third viewing, like, I get it. It's just a little oversaturated for me, I guess.
Yeah. I can't remember. I feel like Caleb came home that night and said that movie's awesome.
Yeah, he loved it.
The second one.
We all went and saw Dawn.
Yeah.
And then we all went and saw it because of that.
Yeah. I think that's what happened.
Because I think we weren't exactly that interested in that one either until Caleb came home and said, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And we went and saw it.
I'm like so I haven't seen, so the original movie, it was great. There were all these sequels. I haven't seen any of them, but I can't understand how they all got made. Like, where's the audience?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm looking at here. Like, I don't really. This movie we just saw is one of my favorite, like, just fun popcorn movies. And I saw the second one because I thought it would be as good. I'm done now. I might not see the third one at all. And so, like, who was watching? Who was tuning in for, like? I have the list here of like the Return to the Planet of the Apes, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, Escape from. I just they got made, man.
And they were very short, right? It's like year after year. Like they were just going like cranking them out.
It was like Star Wars. I mean, it was like crazy. Disney was riding the Star Wars train. Only I don't know who was watching.
Man, so if you were like boil it down and try to synthesize, like what is it about this franchise that really works for you?
I think it's the fact that they're not human, which I guess is what y'all are opposed to. Like the exact opposite. That you put these human ideas and morals on a new creature, but it still ends up having some of the same flaws and just the ideas and concepts that brings to the table. Is I guess what kind of...
That's definitely what the first one, the original, played up was... You know, the shoes on the other foot, and they're doing all the same things that we know we would do, right? And the ways that they exercise their supremacy. And there's almost like even, I think, some racial stuff, right? Where it's like when one group is in power, the way they treat other groups is very fascinating. And so now you have this group, this other species in power, and the way that some of the humans, Charlton Heston and others, are being treated is like they're being treated like slaves. Yeah. And it's fascinating to see that power dynamic and how... When Charlton Heston, who's a white male in the 60s, is in this situation, he's like seeing things that he would not have seen with his, normal experiences. So I think that's fascinating to see power dynamics at play with different groups. And so I think that's what, but this movie that we just saw wasn't really about that.
Yeah. This one wasn't.
It sets up another movie that is very much about that. This one's more about belonging, right? It's more about the individual and finding a place of belonging and all of that.
Yeah, I think that's what I like a lot about. I guess it is mostly this one for me. Like, I like that idea that Caesar isn't quite sure where he belongs or who he should be, or like he can't identify with humans quite right. He can't identify with apes quite right, and that tension is what I really like. Yeah. But I guess in Dawn, he's found it. He's an ape. Yeah. He's going to stick with the apes, and they're just evolving with him.
Yeah. I think another theme of the whole thing is like kind of the vulnerability of humanity, right? Like it looks like we've just got this thing figured out, and like this little domino falls, and it's like, oh, wow, like we are really not that consequential, and some other species just far surpasses us, you know what I mean?
And we also completely almost die out at the same exact
just
time.
On accident, you know what I mean? So there's something in there about, and I think that's the Statue of Liberty scene. It was just this vulnerability, like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And Charlton Heston, like, I can't believe we did this. How did we do this? There was some, so did y'all notice the little nuggets of like the mission to Mars in this movie? Yeah. So that was like setting up something that maybe that'll happen in some future sequel, but.
And even him riding on the horse is kind of a little like because they ride horses in the original, right?
Very
And
much so,
that's-
yeah.
Him riding a horse is like a
They're
kind of
natural
nod to that.
horse beasts.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really interested. I would love to go back and watch the very first original.
Yeah, I want to rewatch it.
I think so.
It's a good one.
Watch it for the first time for me.
Man, if we were still in college, I could totally imagine us just binging through all of the 70s.
All of the 70s.
Apparently, there's also a television series. Did you know that? I'm on the Wikipedia page right now.
I know that.
Two different television series.
Wow.
Yeah.
What if
Incredible.
this just evolves into like the Star Wars holiday episode? Where you just have, a bunch of Wookiees talking.
Yeah, that's
to each
exactly.
other.
That's what I literally thought of that when you were saying apes talking to apes. Like you can take a little bit of that. It's like Chewbacca's thing is like it's like 30 minutes of Wookiee to Wookiee conversations. It's too much. Do you have ideas for what you would do if you had a sequel? Like if taking it from where Dawn leaves off, where would you go with the sequel?
See, that's the thing.
What would you do?
Like I said, I don't know where you could go.
I feel like the interesting stuff has been explored.
Yep.
I would do something crazy, like make it real weird, like Tim Burton-esque.
Tim Burton
but
weird.
try to pull it off.
I think that's Tim Burton
on
had this
super
conversation
weird.
18 years ago in some kitchen.
Monkey takes the human back in time, and that's why they're humans.
That's why there's a human
Right,
civilization.
exactly.
Boom.
Or what if
We've
we, like,
done it.
jumped way far into the future, and the apes are starting to become humans. What do they do then?
What do you mean? Like they
start
just
to
have
evolve.
completely evolved? Yeah.
Yes. What happens then?
I don't know.
Exactly.
Make a movie about it.
Well, I want to see that.
So many crazy ideas you can do. Well,
All right.
that's it.
That's the show.
I think so.
Okay. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you want to keep supporting the podcast, it'd be great if you could share this with a friend. Write us a review in iTunes. That'd be awesome. You can check out all of our Twitter handle stuff in the description. Use hashtag #AfterThoughtsPodcast. Let us know what you think of the Planet of the Apes in general.
Yeah.
I'd love to know.
And let us know if the new one's any good.
Yeah. We should go see that. And you can check out what movie we're going to be talking about in the description as well. And tune in next week. We will see you guys then.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
See y'all.
See ya.
Bye bye.